Ladies and gentlemen, this is Joe's Classic Video Games back with another cool pinball repair video for you this evening. We have been working on this kind of beat up Bally Supersonic for quite a while now. We've done several videos on it. We bought this used off of Facebook, and the boards were all fried in it. Somebody had made a short on one of the boards and it fried all of the other boards. So we did a bunch of videos going through that, but it's also kind of beat up. Like the cabinet is kind of beat up, and the playfield is very beat up. So we did a video, or a couple videos actually, where we've been working on this thing, trying to hand paint the art back in to save it. So we've removed all of the pieces that go on it. We have them over here on our beautiful fun house that's being used as a table right now. And previously, we kind of focused on putting some of the lines back in, the line work. You can see where the wear was. This S was completely missing. Most of this one was missing. And we've done the orange. So we've done some of the lines and we've done the orange. We also did like kind of the cream color. And we're kind of going through it. It's still a little bit of a mess, but it's getting there. So I think next up, we probably need to go ahead and try to repair the red. Red is kind of a hard one to do because it's kind of thin. So we need to do some primer first. So we've got, if you look at these, we mentioned it in the previous video, there's only really a few colors. So it's not as hard as it seems. The hard part is kind of getting the art back where it goes. And since this doesn't actually even have art, it's just kind of simple shapes, it was a lot easier, right? So it looked really bad, but it's not that bad. So you've got a yellow, you see the yellow. Some of this with the cream on it's because I just did that for primer, which we're about to do on this. You've got the yellow. You've got a blue. That's two. You've got a cream, which is kind of, it was originally white, or a whitish color. That's three. You've got red. That's four. You've got this burgundy looking color. That's five. You've got orange. That's six. And you've got black, which is just the lines. That's seven. So there's only seven colors on the whole thing. They also have this wood tone that's just the natural plywood, but we don't have to touch any of that up. So seven colors. We've already done the cream, and we've already done the orange, and to a great extent we've done the black. On the black, I'm able to use just a acrylic paint pen. These are pretty cool. These aren't really that expensive or anything, but it's acrylic paint as opposed to oil-based paint or something like a Sharpie or something. If you use that, and it's real tempting to just use a Sharpie or even an ink pen. If you use that, the problem you have is whenever you clear coat over it, the catalyst in the clear coat interacts with whatever the catalyst is in the Sharpie, and the paint will run. Sometimes you get away with it, but a lot of times you don't. We had a kiss that we did one time. We touched up the side with a Sharpie. So Kiss has the four faces of the band members on it. We touched up the side with a Sharpie, went all through it, took forever, got it all just right, and then we put the clear on it, and all of the paint started running off their face like they were crying like little babies. All right, so yeah, let's do red. I think if we get the red done, it'll make a big difference. So we've got all the red here that's missing. We've got a little red here that's missing. This we could touch up a little bit. And then up here, there's some areas that are, screwed up. So there's really not a ton of red. So let me grab my paint and see if we've got a red that's anywhere near the color that the Playfield is, just right out of the bottle, and hopefully we won't have to mix anything. So here's what I've got. Now, we just get these little cheap. They used to be 69 cents, but I don't know what they are now with all of the inflation. They might be $6.99. Hopefully, they're less than that. But these usually are like $1. And you can get all kinds of different colors, and they're acrylic. That's what's important. So we want to use acrylic. It's easy to mix. It's easy to touch up. It's easy to clean up. And then you can clear over it with the clear coat. Just spray paint, clear coat, and it won't cause any problems. So acrylic's the way to go, in my opinion. That's just how we do it. So what I do is, when the paint's wet, it's a little lighter than how it dries. So it's going to dry just slightly, and it's light, just a shade, barely a dash, just a dash darker than it looks. Okay, and we're also, if we just turn the bottle over, we're looking at the color through this plastic, so it's going to make it a little bit more cloudy than it actually is, and so that will look a little lighter, right? But if I just lay it down on the playfield and then compare it with my naked eye to the paint that's on the playfield, and then you kind of have to think about the color wheel a little bit. Like, why that red does not match that red? What's the difference? Well, this one, to me, it's not as vivid, and it looks, you know, maybe it's a little more blue, maybe-ish. Just a little tiny bit of blue, so it moves it that way on the color wheel. Maybe, I don't know. But that one doesn't match very well. Okay, now look at this one. It's more like a purple, so it's definitely more blue. You know, red and blue make purple. So this one's not even close. You would never use that one. However, if you look over here on the sides, it's a little closer to the side rails, which are kind of like a purple. But we won't mess with that right now. Okay, this one looks promising. That looks pretty good. It looks a little light, but this might be a good one to test. Don't go by the label. The labels, you know, you'll see 2 or 3 different colors with the same color label. That might work. So this is called True Red. Might be right. This is Berry Red. So Berry Red's too dark. And, you know, it's going to dry a little darker than we're seeing here, so that ain't going to work. Now, if you can't get the correct color and you don't want to mix it, or you're mixing it and you just can't quite get it right, lean towards it being slightly too dark than too light. If I put red on there that's a little bit too light, you'll see it, right? So if it's slightly too dark, it plays a trick on your mind where you basically just see that as wear, like it being old and a little worn, and so it doesn't stand out as much. This is Cherry Red, way too dark. And too blue. This is Tuscan Red. We don't have much of it left. Also very dark. Not what we want. This is Primary Red. Also too dark. The jukebox is starting in the other room. YouTube freaks out if you play a bunch of music. And then here we have True Red again. Is that what we had before? Yeah, so we got a couple True Reds. I don't know, that seems like it's the closest. So I think what I'll do is I'll take a little bit of that. Now, this probably needs some primer first. The red's probably not going to cover it. Red's kind of a thin pigment on this acrylic paint at least. But I'll take a little bit out on a brush, put a little dab on the playfield. Maybe we'll do it up there so we don't make this any worse than it has to be when it's done. We're kind of concerned about it being as flat as possible, which means as few coats as possible, because you can see the brush strokes and stuff. So yeah, let me try a little bit of this maybe at the top. Another problem you run into, though, is sometimes you get different fading depending if it's at the bottom or the top. This is not the color that it left the factory as. When it left the factory, it would have been a brighter red, but over time, and this thing is, you know, knocking on 50 years old. Over time, the red pigment in paint fades, right? So the whole playfield is slightly more green than it originally was. The red is slightly less red than it originally was. The orange is slightly less red than it originally was, and so the opposite of red on the color wheel is green. So it makes everything look a little more green. So sometimes it's different at different parts of the playfield. So this area may be more faded, what little bit's left, more faded than that area up there. Now another thing you can do is you can just repaint all the red if you want. So if we were to repaint all of the red, well, you wouldn't notice any difference because it's all the same color because it's all new. We may end up doing that. I hate to redo all of this. Well, I don't have to do that, but I hate to redo all of this text because text is kind of tricky, but it's kind of all gone anyway. But we'll figure it out. So let me do a little test piece of this and just see how close to the original red this is. All right, so I did a little test area, and I think I'm cool with it right out of the bottle. This has been repainted the new color, and that. It is slightly different, but we're so close. I don't know that I can get it much better than that. I did a little bit here too, but that's only one coat. This is 2 coats. Also, it looks like I don't need primer, because with 2 coats it looks pretty good. I did a couple little spots up here, like that, and that. Folks, it's about as close as I can get it. I'm not going to get much better than that mixing it. So I think we're just going to go ahead and do the red with True Red. What a beautiful name. So I'm going to paint in the red that's missing here. I think I'll maybe I'll just paint up to the edge and leave the original, and then I'll show you the what you can do whenever you've got areas like this. There's a technique for that. And we'll see how it comes out. I think the same thing that we did before with the orange, when we get the clear on it, I think it will darken it just a little bit and kind of hopefully bring it all together. But yeah, I think that's good enough for us. Okay, so what I'm attempting to do, you can see I'm using this old pretty crappy brush. What I'm attempting to do is not put a thick coat on it, because you have this problem if you watch the previous video where you can see all the brush strokes. So see on the orange, the brush strokes there? So any difference in thickness pops out. So we've got two issues going on. So I'm going to show this real close up, which normally I wouldn't want to do because you can see all the flaws. Okay, so look what's going on there on that orange. It's a mess whenever you get close to it, because what you're seeing is you're seeing the natural thickness of the paint that's missing. It's what's creating that line, you know, all those lines there. That's chipped away the original paint. And then I've put new paint on top of it, and you can also see the brush strokes from my new paint. So the whole thing just isn't very smooth, really, you know. So I'm trying to combat that by making the red as thin as possible, because it's such a big part of the playfield that you're going to see. Once we get clear on it, you're going to see every little flaw sticking out, you know. So I'm trying to go just as thin as possible with a fairly dry brush, and I'm just poking around at the areas that are really white. Like this brush is about dry, right? So if you just kind of dab at it, it might be too dry now, but I'm just trying to get just enough paint where it fills in that white layer underneath. And then once I get it, I'm brushing over the top of it to get all the excess off, so that there's just the smallest amount of paint on it. And so I'm just playing around with it. If I get this color paint, which is slightly different than the original, on top of the original, it's so thin, if I get it thin enough, you'll see the original color through it, and it'll help blend it and make it closer. But personally, I think it's pretty damn close right out of the bottle. It's certainly close enough. It's going to look just fine right out of the bottle. And I'm going to do one more coat on some of the areas, because some of it's just kind of thin, like up here's a little thin. And I want to make sure that it's at least all one color and that you don't see the wood peeking through, right? Also, I'm kind of getting away with my rule, like I said, where the paint that I'm putting on is slightly darker than the original paint, so it hides a little bit better than if it was slightly lighter. If I was to put it on thicker, though, I think it might get brighter, which I don't really want. I kind of want it to look a little more dull so that it blends in a little better. So I'm going to keep touching that up, and then of course we have to worry about inking the black back in. This was obviously easy enough. I'm not even going to mess with that. I'm just going to leave it how it is. And then up here, most of that wear is actually under where the posts go. So I'm going to quickly touch that up, but you're not going to see any of it anyway because the posts go on top of it. There is a little bit up there I'll touch up, but there's just not a ton of red on the playfield. So that's, basically I've got one coat on now. I'm going to keep working on this area to get a second coat where it's thin. And we'll be ready to letter it. Alright, so I'm going to show you another technique you can use. If you've got an area like this where most of the color's there, but there's like white spots all over it where basically the paint's missing, if it's falling apart, there's not, you can't leave it like that. But as you saw on the previous videos, we scrubbed all this, so everything that's going to come off has pretty much came off. So it's solid, it's just it's got a bunch of paint missing. So what you can do in this case is you can take your color that's close, it doesn't have to be an exact match. This one's pretty close, and just paint over all of it like this, kind of blot it on. Right? And then once you do that, take a paper towel, or I'm just going to use my finger actually, and kind of rub the extra paint off. So the idea is, what you're doing is you're taking the paint off the top layer of the paint that's still good, but it's going to leave the paint in the little areas that are missing. Right, so let me try this little part right up here. So we're just going to take some paint, kind of sloppily put it on there. Right. And then I'm not going to rub it on the yellow because I'm going to leave that, but kind of just rub away the excess. So that's from Clay at penrepair.com. He was the first person I saw talking about that. I don't know that he came up with it, but he calls it the smear technique, not the type that the politicians use. But if you do that, it works pretty good. You can see the darker areas. So like basically everywhere it was white is now a slightly darker color. And it hides a ton of wear. So that's why I was saying that area up there didn't bother me at all. Anytime you've got that going on, especially if it's at the top of the playfield, you will never be able to tell that was touched up by doing that. Because the only place that's going to have paint left is in the actual... Let's see if we can do that white line. I'm pushing my luck doing it more than once on video. But we'll see. We'll see what happens. I wish I had a paper towel here real quick. Let me grab a paper towel so I can show you that you can do it with that instead of your finger. So I like these blue like shop racks, but just be careful with it so you don't rub it all over everything else. And if you go too much, you'll take all of it off, like I took a little bit of it off there. But you can see how that makes a dramatic improvement, and you won't see brush strokes because there's only paint in the area that's actually lower than the level of the playfield in the first place. So that really helps whenever you've got like a big field and you don't want to repaint the whole thing. You just want to touch it up. Okay, so this is where we're at before the clear. So last time we did a video, we cleaned it all up. Takes forever. Then we did a video where we inked it in, did the orange and some of the like the cream color. And then this video we've gotten the red done and inked in more of the lettering, the black, including some more of the cream color. But I'm about to put some clear on it. So we'll see if the clear brings this together. See how the coloring is slightly different, but ironically the color that I painted on kind of matches the look of it underneath these half circle protectors that they put on here. Right? So it's one of those things, I think we're going to get away with it just right out of the bottom. Obviously it needs a lot more work, but it's getting there. I would say we're halfway done, maybe more than halfway done. Keep in mind too, these look really rough without all of the plastics on it. So once we put the plastics on, it's where you've got art here, art here, art here, art here, art here, art here, right? It'll look much better. Personally, I think it's pretty good. My lettering is my weak spot, and also the brush strokes that are visible is the weak spot. The color match I think I get pretty good usually. The lettering's a little off, but I'm getting better at it. I think I'm getting better at it. There's other ways you can do it. You can do it with water slide decals, where you print it on a decal. But then you have the problem where you have to guess at the font. You know, we're trying to match a font that already exists. These two were here. This one wasn't. You know, how do you do that with a water slide decal? It can be done, but it's not as easy as it seems like it would be. And then as soon as you look at the Playfield, you're going to see where the decal is. And that's probably the best option to do it. So on some machines, they actually make a decal where they might make like this whole piece. And you just put a decal over that one whole area with all new art. But you can tell by looking at it that it's been done. If you could look back on some of our videos, we did that with one of our Star Treks, I believe. And we did that with a Kiss that we had. We just put a decal over all the wear. Looked all right. I think this looks much better, although it has its faults as well. And the star, of course, needs more work. That's going to be yellow. So we still got the yellow to do. We still got the cranberry sauce to do. Bonus points if you know where that comes from. Yellow, that, and the blue. Personally, I think it's looking pretty good, though. I'm gonna spray some clear coat on it to lock in what we've done, and then we'll come back and I'll show you the end. Well, I think it looks a heck of a lot better than it did. There's a sheen on the Playfield now from the clear, so you can't tell completely on that picture, but and you can see brush strokes. With that said, I think we definitely saved the thing. I think it was, you know, pretty much done, and I think we've brought it back. Of course, we still have a long way to go. So I hope you enjoyed it. Leave your comments below. We appreciate everybody that's joined our Patreon channel. If you don't know about that, we put up a little, whenever we do these videos, like this video is knocking on an hour long now. So there's little things in the video that if you don't watch the whole hour-long video, you're never going to see, like the smear technique thing, right? You're not going to see the smear technique. Well, if you don't see the smear technique, how will you ever know about it? And you might not watch this whole video. You might skip around. I know y'all are skipping around. I skip around too. So on our Patreon channel, we upload little snippets of stuff like that. So it's stuff that's on this channel, but it's hidden in our vast library of 1,500 videos of me running my mouth for too long. So we take little snippets of some of the interesting stuff that's topical, like how to do that smear technique we talked about, and upload that as just a little short clip on Patreon. So that's one of the things that we've been doing. And then also there's, like whenever we do videos on jukeboxes, things like that, sometimes there's music playing that YouTube won't allow us to play, but on Patreon we can get away with that. So, if you're interested in that kind of stuff, a little bit of behind the scenes stuff and unreleased stuff, but not much. Most of it's stuff that you can get here, hidden in the videos. But if you're interested in that, check out our Patreon below. So we appreciate that. And we appreciate everybody that's been supporting us on Amazon. There's a link down below. If you're going to buy anything on Amazon, use our link, even if it's not what we link to. But if you use our link, basically we sent you to Amazon, and Amazon gives us a tip for whatever your purchase is there. If you're going to buy a stove or a washer or dryer or something, if you click our link first, it gives us a nice little tip for sending you there. We're basically promoting Amazon right now. So we appreciate it. Hope you liked it. Tell me what you think down below. Keep in mind we still got a long ways to go. But I think all in all it's turned out pretty good. My lettering could be a little better, but a lot of customers would never even know. They would never even know. So I'm very happy with it. It's come out probably just a little bit better than I thought it would. So I think we're heading towards a 7. I don't know if we can really even get to an 8 with the lettering kind of where you can obviously tell that it's been redone. But we can get a nice solid 7 out of it. So leave your comments below and we will see you on the next one. I hope you enjoyed it.